On February 23rd, the CDC actually slammed Royal Caribbean with a, quote, horrifying inspection report. Welcome to the SeaLog, the #1 Royal Caribbean blog, videoed in a hotel room in Houston, Texas. I'm Sean, that's Kat, and this is the Third Orbit Travelers monthly podcast. So if you're new to this podcast, the way this works is each podcast has a theme, and I just got off Icon of the Seas, so Kat in the middle of this is going to be asking me some questions about Icon, basically interviewing me. But before that, we always do news from the past month. And at the end, we answer questions. So we put a thing out asking for questions about Icon, and we got a bunch of questions back, which a lot of them will probably be answered in the interview that Kat's doing with me. Also, I want to say two more things. One, I'm sorry that our podcast is a week late, but normally it's the last Sunday of every month, and I was on Icon then, so we couldn't do it. And number two, don't forget, this is the first month that we're doing the hidden item in our hotel room. So if you weren't watching the last episode, we did a video of our hotel room. Every Sunday, we stay in the same hotel room here in Houston for work. And I did a video of the empty hotel room. In the middle of this podcast, we'll show you a walkthrough of this room, and there'll be one cruise-related item that's hidden. If you can find it and you send us an email at connect@3rd, that's 3RD orbittravelers.com, tell us what it is and where it was. And next Sunday, I'll take all the emails that we get, put it into a random number generator, and randomly pick a winner. And whoever wins will win our travel journal for the Caribbean that we have on Amazon. Mail it directly to you. So to get started, let's go over some of the news for February for Royal Caribbean. Some of this is pretty sad and some of it's pretty humorous. So back in the end of February, beginning of March, there was a woman that went overboard during an 80s themed cruise. She was actually the fiance of the singer for Faster Pussycat. It's a band if you're not as old as we are. She fell overboard on Explore the Seas on the first day of the cruise, and they still haven't found her or her body, and that's creating quite a bit of typical online mystery right now. On February 23rd, the CDC actually slammed Royal Caribbean with a, quote, horrifying inspection report. So Symphony of the Seas, I don't remember, I think it's in 86, got the lowest grade that you can get for an inspection by the CDC without being basically grounded. Huh?
Shut down.
Yeah, shut down. And they said it's going to take around $65,000 to fix the issues. And there were things from like someone was serving ice cream that actually had open sores on their arm. It was really disgusting. If you want to look into that more, just do a search. But yeah, I was on Symphony last year. If you've watched it, that's the video where I had the fake balcony, which was like a television set in my cabin. I specifically got that cabin to try it. Had nothing but problems. Cute news. There were 2 burrowing owls that stowed away on Allure of the Seas for her transatlantic crossing on February 21st. She was going from, what does it say? from the United States over, and they discovered the two owls in Central Park. And I guess the crew and a lot of the passengers were taking selfies with them. They're little itty bitty owls if you've never seen one before. And last but not least, the new Icon class ship Legend of the Seas was unveiled on February 18th. Royal Caribbean announced Legend of the Seas, the third Icon class ship. We tried booking tickets for it for next year, but it's not going to be in an area that we want to cruise on or in until 27. And we're crazy, but we're not that crazy. I don't even think, actually, there were some, I think, for the beginning of that year. But anyway, it is the third in the Icon class ship. It's set to debut in the summer of 2026 with sailings in Europe and the Southern Caribbean. It features a skywalk thrill ride, the world's largest water park at sea. It is a natural gas powered ship, just like Icon is. And yeah, you can start booking. You could start booking as of February 20th. And that's all the major news for February of 2025.
Wow, that's pretty exciting.
I always feel bad. You know, when I go on a cruise, and especially during the transatlantic, you know, you're on your balcony, hanging onto that little railing, and you're looking out over the ocean. And if you fell overboard, no one would ever find you. I mean, it's
They
crazy.
wouldn't even know.
Yeah, and it's so scary because
It'd probably be days before you even notice that you're missing.
Oh, yeah, especially me, right?
Yeah, well, be like, God, why is it so quiet in here?
Okay, so on to the Icon cruise that I went on.
Question? Oh, yes, I have questions.
You wrote questions down?
Questions down. Hold on. I'm getting a phone call. Yes? Okay, I'll let him know. It was the FAA saying no droning on today. So these are just questions.
No droning on, please. Okay.
All right. Now, I seen on the video that you already posted the boarding process, but how many people were actually in the terminal to begin with? Like, was it mobbed when you first got there? Because it didn't look like when you were going up the ramps, there was nobody.
Yeah, so for Icon, we went out of, so I went on Icon. Kat was actually visiting family. I went on Icon out of Miami, and it was really weird. So Jim and I went with a friend of mine named Jim. If you've seen any of our videos, he's been in some of them. But Jim and I, we had a specialty dining restaurant at 12:30. And I got an email from Royal Caribbean telling us not to come till like noon. And I stay up. For those of you who don't know, when they open to check in, basically the version of checking in, you can do it midnight ship time for the ship that you're checking in on. And I, right at midnight, did it, and I got 12 noon. And Kat and I typically go an hour early. And that's what Jim and I did. And we went, actually, I think we got there an hour and a half early because the traffic wasn't that bad. And they had it sectioned off. There were lines and it said arrival time, between 11 and 11:30, between 11:30 and 12, little signs. And I walked up and I said, we're for noon. And they're like, go ahead, there's your line. And we walked right on.
Oh.
I just right on the ship. So yeah, it was great. There were hardly any people. No time at all. As long as you enter everything in the app ahead of time, and as long as you do your safety, like I'm not pregnant and not sick thing, they call it express boarding, and right on. And they own it. It's not like one of those shared terminals. It's a Royal Caribbean terminal.
Okay. So when you got on, how long did it take you to get accustomed to the ships? Because sometimes it takes almost 7 days just to get used to the size and where everything is.
Okay, so from the I I loved this cruise because, we go on Royal Caribbean all the time, and we're so used to like the Oasis and Voyager class ships because we go on them all the time. And it, it was amazing not knowing where I was going.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and it's so if you've ever been on an Oasis class ship, everything is pretty much symmetrical. Like port and starboard side, you go up to the pool deck. Yes, there might be the sports pool on one side and the beach pool on the other side or whatever, but it's pretty much the same. There are decks on Icon that there is only a port side or there's only a starboard side, and they kind of wiggle around. And I always hated that about Carnival. I've been on a few Carnival cruises. Jim and I just went on one, and I would always get lost. I mean, completely lost on the Carnival ships because everything was winding. But on Icon, that wasn't the case. The major layout of the ship we got within 2 days. Now, that being said, I was doing the walking tour on day 7, and I'm like, up ahead, I see this whole area with lounge chairs behind these sliding doors. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm walking to this thing to see what's back there because I'm like, what is this? And then I pass a lime and coconut. You remember the lime and
Right.
coconut? So on Icon, there's there's 1, 2, 3, at least 4, maybe 5 lime and coconuts on Royal Caribbean. And I'm passing this lime and coconut. I never, day 7, never even knew was there. I'm like booking it with my camera to to go through the doors to get to the chairs, and the doors open, and it was a reflection of the chairs that were out where I was. It was just the elevators. But the point is I thought there was a part of the ship that I didn't know.
Right.
So I would say first time you go on Icon, by halfway through, as long as you explore, it is similar enough to the Oasis class ships that within 2 days, you'll be absolutely fine and know your way around.
All right. Okay. When you got to your room, where was it? Like what part of the ship?
So sorry, Jim, if you're watching this, but Jim's a cheapskate. He always wants to stay in inside cabins. Another YouTube channel, Cruise News, by the way, fantastic. I don't even know them, but still a fantastic channel. They did a poll and asked people, could you go on a Royal Caribbean cruise without upgrading anything or spending any extra money? And that's Jim. He wants to go on the cruise and not pay anything extra. He's not a cheapskate. I mean, he buys stuff. He's frugal,
conservative with
yes.
this money.
And so he wanted to get an inside cabin. Inside cabins are like you're living in a cave because you go in and you close the door and there's you can't see anything. And I used to not mind that because you can get a good cabin for almost nothing for an inside cabin. So I convinced him to upgrade to a balcony. And when I go on cruises by myself, not when Kat and I go, but when I go by myself and I'm on an Oasis class ship, I always get a balcony in Central Park because what I do is I open my balcony door up and I listen to the jazz music, the people playing jazz, and I fall asleep to it. When Kat and I go on Oasis class ships, we always get a balcony looking over the boardwalk toward the very end.
And I don't know why we do that.
Because it's loud and exciting.
No, it's noisy.
Okay. So yeah, that's where we stayed. We stayed on deck 12. It was relatively in the middle of the ship between the 2 elevator banks. And roughly, it was a little closer to one than the other. And it looked out over Central Park, roughly right over where the Pearl is, which is there's a huge like sphere when you first walk in on the Royal Promenade, and it goes all the way up through Central Park. It's covered in Central Park, but it's glassed in. So yeah, right in the middle of Central Park.
So you didn't feel any lately? I haven't been feeling when we move at all.
There was a little bit that when we first left port, it was definitely, well, in one of the videos, one of the Let's Cruise videos, I made a comment that, the ship is moving. It nowhere near, we were on one cruise where I had to put my hand on the ceiling, and you said, "Oh, you're exaggerating."
That was across the transatlantic.
Yeah, the
transatlantic.
You were exaggerating. I was not exaggerating. But yeah, it was nice. The more to the center and the lower you get, the less movement you'll get. So if you don't want movement, center, low as you can go, which means an ocean view cabin as opposed to a balcony. If you go all the way down to ocean view and center of the ship, you won't move at all. And keep in mind, Icon is huge, so it's not going to move that much anyway.
Right. All right. The room quality?
Tons and tons of storage. We kept finding storage. Like, there is a mirror. I thought it was just a floor-to-ceiling mirror thing. And Jim's like, "Where's the safe?" I'm like, "Jim, I'm not to that point yet in unpacking." And next thing you know, he's got the mirror swung open, and there's the safe. There's bins to put stuff in. There's drawers. Now, is it as much as you're going to have in your bedroom? No, but there was tons of storage, a lot of storage. And then the other thing is, on Icon, some of the balconies, not all of them, but some of them are part of your cabin. So the area that would normally be the balcony is actually part of the cabin. And then there's like a glass wall, and the top half of the glass, you push a button and it lowers down into the bottom half, and you have a balcony. So the chairs that are on your balcony are comfortable chairs, unlike those horrible ones. And the table, everything's not covered in salt. It's not sticky. Dusty. It's not, it's like it's in your cabin. So your cabin seems so much bigger. We're going on Star of the Seas September of next year. Same itinerary that I just did on Icon. And we got a same cabin. Exactly the same cabin.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 12237. Got the same. The lady's like, "What cabin do you want?" I'm like, "I don't know, same one." Because I booked it on Next Cruise. They had a pretty good special going, so.
All right. So you went to the specialty restaurants. Which one was your favorite?
Okay. Yes, I did. So I went to, I did Giovanni's Kitchen. Is that it?
Right.
Yeah, kitchen twice. I went once for lunch, once for dinner, once with Jim, and once by myself. Then I did the Empire Supper Club. And then I did another one that's brand new, and I don't remember the name of it, unfortunately. Can't look it up. We're podcast. So they're Giovanni's. If you guys watch any of our videos, the Giovanni's Italian Kitchen, is that it? We're supposed to be experts on this.
The kitchen's the new one.
Yeah, but Giovanni's Italian Table.
Right.
Yeah, that one, we love the food, but we've had horrible service like every single time. We've been, the very first time we ever went to that version of Giovanni's, the waiter was like so rude for, I don't know, like the first third of it. And then all of a sudden it's like someone flicked the switch and we got a new.
It was weird because we were the only ones there.
We're the only ones there. And he's like, "Would you like any drinks?" I said, "I don't know. Can you bring me a drink menu?" And he gave us a drink menu. And so it was out of Texas. If you've ever been on a cruise out of Texas, until the cruise ship gets in international waters, they are limited on what alcohol they can sell because it has to be purchased through a distributor that is in Texas or something like that. And so he gave us that. And I'm like, remember, we lived on a sailboat. I said, we're in international waters now. This is irrelevant. Can I have one that tells me what kind of drinks you have? And he went and got it. No, he actually went and said there isn't one. So then I don't remember what we got, but
I think you got a chocolate martini.
Yeah, maybe. But then after he brings like the first appetizer, I mean, seriously, he's horrible mood, super bad mood. I don't know. Then it's like someone flicked the switch, and he was the nicest. Can I bring you more food? Would you like an extra entree? Would you like more appetizers? What would you like? I'm gonna custom make you a coffee in the kitchen myself, and I'm gonna put like Kahlua and some other stuff in it. He brought us these mugs of coffee that were so strong with alcohol. So yeah, we've had a lot of bad experience. And the food, great, but the service has been horrible. This Giovanni's kitchen, yeah. The food is lighter. Like half the menu is pizzas, like wood pizzas, but the other half is homemade pastas. It just seems like you don't feel, for me, like if I go to Olive Garden or Giovanni's Italian, I feel when I leave, right? I didn't feel like that. Yeah. Food was fantastic. I'll put a thing at the bottom of the video for this, but the other specialty dining restaurant that I went to was in Surfside, which on Icon is their version of the boardwalk. It's where all the kids go. And Jim and I went to this specialty dining restaurant, and there was only one other table that had people in the entire restaurant. And we're like, what the heck is going on? So we ordered the food. The quantity, it's first of all, the cheapest specialty restaurant I think I've ever eaten in. It was 20 some odd dollars. And the food was outstanding. The appetizers were bigger than the main courses. Now, it's a little different than most specialty dining restaurants. They specifically state on the menu, you get one appetizer, you get one entree, and you get one dessert. That's it. So no multiple appetizers. Like we when we go to specialty restaurants,
they usually give us a couple.
Yeah, we always do that. Or multiple entrees. Like when I went to Giovanni's by myself on Icon, the guy asked me if I wanted an extra entree to go. I'm like, no, I'm stuffed because I had two appetizers and
It's not like
dessert.
Fridge.
And then he gave me an extra dessert to go. He gave me some banana thing, which was very good. But so the appetizer was huge. Jim got something called a Buddha bowl, which was like rice with vegetable. I mean, it was a huge bowl.
Right.
And then for his main meal, he got Korean barbecue chicken. And then for dessert, it was huge too. Tons and tons of food. And it was all like healthy-ish based sort of food. And then at the end, the chef came out and talked with us for probably 15 minutes. And I said, what's going on there's no one in here. She said it's because they put it in the kids' play area. No one even thinks that there's a restaurant back there. And for me, I get on, I'm crazy. Like if it's a new ship, I get on the app to find every little thing we haven't done and I sign up for it. Sometimes that's a big mistake because I sign up for multiple alcohol tastings the same day. But this didn't even show up as a specialty restaurant until like, I don't know, a month before the cruise. And like it's only $28, or I think that's what it was. So then I signed up for it, and yeah, it was outstanding. And then last one I did there's a Hooked. I didn't go there because there's so much food and that was free. I wanted to try a lot of it.
Right.
I did the Empire Supper Club. I'll put a link in the description. Best food by far that I've ever had on a cruise ship.
Wow. Yeah, but how much was it?
Without gratuity and taxes, $200 a person. Now, the cool thing is I actually got to talk to them quite a bit also.
Was it worth $200?
It was worth $200. Okay, so we actually had, I don't think the question's in here because it wasn't a question. One of our channel watchers that watches all of our videos all the time, she comments a lot, and she actually brought up a very good point that you get. So this was a 6-course tasting menu, but you got 2 surprise appetizers. Now, one of the appetizers was about this big. The other one was basically your bread, but it was honey drizzled sweet pecan bread. Amazing. And then you got a secret dessert, which was a cotton candy tree. But so there's 6 courses that you know about ahead of time, and there's drinks for each of the 6 courses. And when you first get there and you're having your surprise appetizers, they give you a glass of champagne. And so I'm like, oh, because you're sitting there listening to the music for like 15 minutes before your first course comes out.
Right.
So I drink my glass. Like, I swear the guy was hiding in my shadow like some fantasy book, because I would drink my champagne, put it down, and then the bottle would appear. Because like every table, I think my waiter only waited on one other table, if even that, because if I even thought in my head that I needed something, he appeared just like it should be. It was fantastic. But
yes, just like it should be.
okay, so think about it. I probably had 4 glasses of champagne, and then the 6 glasses that go with. So that's 10 glasses. That's roughly $120 to $140 worth of alcohol that you get as part of your thing. Now, yes, if you have the drink package, then you're paying for alcohol that you wouldn't pay for. But we don't get the drink package because we have diamond vouchers, and
I don't drink that much.
And she hardly drinks. So when we go on cruises, I typically get 7 drinks for free a day.
Oh, no, don't go crazy.
Yes, outstanding. One last thing about this. I was talking to them, and they said the Star and the Legend of the Sea, they both are going to have supper clubs, but they're going to have different themes. I guess the Star of the Sea, which we're going on, is going to have a Chicago-based theme. This was like the 20s sort of thing. If she doesn't want to do it, I'll pay for her. We're definitely doing that because it was fantastic. And I love the fact that they enforced the dress code.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what they do for women, but if men come in and they don't have a suit jacket, they won't let them in, and they'll give them a suit jacket to borrow. And if they won't wear it, they can't go in. Yeah, it's very formal.
Okay. Cool. So you did a couple of the activities on the ship, which is new because I seen it on the video.
Yeah, so we did Crown's Edge,
Right.
which is basically a high ropes course. If any of you have done a ropes course challenge for work or something, this is a high ropes course which challenges you. It's very, very short.
Right. Yeah. So by the time you get dressed, it probably takes you longer to get the harness and everything.
No,
on.
so they were very good. First of all, one thing I want to say about Icon, by far, they must have taken the best people off of every ship they had and put them on Icon. Every single person that worked for Royal on that ship, if I interacted with them at all, they said, how was your day? What did you do? What was your favorite thing you did? And sometimes people have said that in the past, and sometimes they actually really care. But a lot of times you can tell they're just saying that, right? Every single time on this ship, it really felt like they actually cared. And the people that worked at this Crown's Edge were definitely like that. So Jim and I we signed up for day 2, and we went, and the wind was too strong. So they canceled it.
Right.
They rescheduled it for the next day, for day 3. We went on day 3, and it was canceled because the wind was too strong.
Well, the ship's moving, is it not?
Yeah, so this is what's weird. I'm probably totally wrong about this, but they said, it can't be over 17, I think he said miles per hour, but we're on a ship, so let's call it 17 knots. Well, the ship goes 17 knots. And if you have a wind coming at the ship when you're going into it, it's going to be over 17 knots every single day. So
That doesn't make sense.
then I had a great idea. I said, well, why don't we do it the first port day a half an hour before we leave port?
Yeah.
Which is what we did. So you go in, they weigh you. You get weighed so much on Icon. You get weighed for the not the rock climbing, for the Crown's Edge and for all the water slides. Now, it doesn't have big numbers that come up. It's a green light because you have to weigh a certain amount and you have to weigh less than a certain amount, or you can't go on a lot of this stuff. So you stand on the scale, the light turns green. It flashed red when I stood on it, but I don't know what that meant. So then I went in and they put the the jumpsuit on you and the harness, and then they give you a camera.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just Jim and I and two other people, and then an employee of the cruise line. She was experiencing it, I guess, so she could tell people what it was like.
Right.
And they have a camera that's on this rig that you're wearing, and they do a video. They do a video of you doing it, which is great. It's wide angle and everything. So then you go up these stairs, and you basically you're over the deck at first. You walk across, like, think of a ladder that's on its side. You walk across that, and then you walk across these different shaped pads, and it takes you out over the water. And you're on deck 15 or 16 for this. So you're a ways up. And then you get to like a plank, and you walk out onto the end of the plank, and you stand there, and then the plank breaks and you free fall. And then you do a zip line that takes you back around to where you started. But you get to do it twice. So the only thing is, after the first time around, they take the camera out,
Right.
and then they have you do it again. Well, I forgot one thing. Before you go up, they make you watch a safety video. And they said, okay, here's a safety video. Watch this. And in the safety video, it says, whatever you do when you're on the plank, do not jump off the plank. Instead, stand with your feet on the footprints, or there's marks on opposite side of the Royal Caribbean logo. There's places for you to put your feet. And stand there, and then you'll fall. So what does Jim do? He gets up and he walks to the end of the plank, looks around, and jumps off. And all of a sudden,
Alarms.
all the employees start screaming, "Jumper!" All of them, because he jumped.
Right.
And he zooms around, and they're yelling, "Jumper! Jumper!" And I'm like, what is going on? I had no idea that he jumped, because you can't, where I was, you couldn't see him. And they're like, "You jumped." And he's like, "Well, what was I supposed to do?" And they're like, "Did y'all watch the video?" He's like, "Oh, no, I didn't watch that." And now you're in this little room, and it's right there. Huge television. He just ignored it.
Well,
He's Jim.
stuff to
Yeah,
think
never a
about.
dull moment. So we did that. We did rock climbing. Problem with rock climbing was, where it was on the ship, is the sun was baking on the handholds. And when Jim and I went, there was no one climbing. And they said, "Oh, the handholds are hot." And Jim and I are pretty good climbers. Well, I mean, for indoor climbing on cruise ships, we're pretty good climbers. And we said, well, we want to do the yellow route because it was the hardest one they had. And, yellow doesn't absorb the heat like the dark green or black ones they had. And the guy's like, "Are you sure?" And Jim and I are like, we touched the yellow one. We're like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." So the guy walks away, and I looked at Jim. I said, "No matter how hot this is, you can't let go, because we'll look like idiots." And so we went and put our harnesses on. Jim climbed up, and he cheated. He actually went off the yellow and on a different color. And then I started going up. I got 6 blisters on the tips of these 4 fingers, and then 2 over here from how hot the handholds were.
Wow.
So yeah, keep that in mind. It's
Wear gloves?
out. it's not like on the Oasis ships where it's undercover and
Did they
everything.
have gloves?
No,
you
there
could
was no
use?
gloves.
Mm,
But yeah, you could bring gloves, I guess.
Yeah.
Jim did
Like-
the flow rider a lot. There's only one flow rider on the ship. There is mini golf, but it was always packed, so we didn't do that. The water slides, there's two really big well, there's a bunch of individual water slides, but there's two big slides where you go down in these round things where two people sit in it, and one big huge, you go down the tube and it goes up this huge ramp and comes back down. That was fun. And we went at night, and the line was pretty reasonable. We went during the day, the first day of the cruise, and it was pretty reasonable then too.
Oh, okay. So you went to some of the shows. Did
Yes.
you do were there musicals?
Yes, there was a music. Kat and I are not musical fans.
Which
However,
is weird because I used to love musicals when I was a kid.
this
Yeah.
was Wizard of Oz. It
love
wasn't a Broadway version of it. They made their own version up.
Okay.
And I couldn't get any video or anything because right in the beginning they said absolutely no pictures, no videos, nothing.
Right.
Like, oh, great. But we sat there. I like Wizard of Oz.
Me too.
Jim and I both fell asleep. I think I slept a lot longer than he did.
Chris Angel experience.
Yes. We went to Chris Angel in Vegas and everyone we went with a huge group of people and probably
I had the best nap ever.
2/3 of the people fell asleep. I love Chris Angel's magic, but the show, the Cirque du Soleil Chris Angel show was brutal.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we fell asleep. Now, I did see most of it. The sets were amazing. Like they went and fought the Wicked Witch
Right.
with the castle and all that. It was by far my favorite of all the musicals we've seen on Royal Caribbean. And I think the kids would absolutely love it. But the theater was like half empty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was hardly anyone in there. We did see, so that was one you had to make a reservation for. They also had the Royal Caribbean on Wonder has like a superhero show with drones, and they had a prequel to it on this ship. No reservations necessary. You just go. Tons of drones again. That was really good.
Yeah.
The ice show on Icon is basically in the round. It's a round ice rink, and it was outstanding. There was actually a juggler in the ice show that's the featured performer. And this is what's said. He was a better juggler than the headliner that came to the main theater that was a juggler. He was great, but this guy was like a lot better. And yeah, it was amazing. He did this thing with these glowing orbs where he threw them out. And at first I thought they were on strings. And then I thought they were drones. And then I thought they were drones on strings because he's throwing them and they're whipping around and coming back. And then he was doing splits while juggling. I mean, he not standing up juggling and going down into a full split. Guy was outstanding. The whole show was amazing. Best ice show I've seen on Royal Caribbean by far. And the water show, same thing. The water show, I mean, you're not going to appreciate this, but there's a whole James Bond section to it with the James Bond music. There's a Star Wars and Star Trek section. Yeah, it was, and it is so tall. And all of a sudden, you're watching, and then this body goes boom. And you're like, what the heck? And there's a hole way up in the top of the dome. And they jump out of that freaking hole that has to be like, I don't know, 80 feet up in the air. Yeah.
Scary.
And they had those guys the performers that have the two spheres that circles they run and they're connected and it goes around and they do jumps and everything as they're doing it. You see in circuses all the time. Yeah. Outstanding. The comedy show, 3 comedians in one show. And the crazy thing is the first comedian, they have a warm-up guy and then a middle guy and then the main headliner. The first guy used to work for Royal Caribbean as like a regular crew member.
Right.
And he was so funny. He did. Yeah, you can't, if you're easily offended, do not go to the comedy shows on the ship. He was doing some presidential impersonations, and he said to the audience, someone pick a Disney movie, cartoon, and someone yelled out, I don't remember, let's say Snow White. And he did President Trump basically doing lines out of that
Oh, yeah.
movie. And it was so fun, so humorous. But I mean, he didn't pick on just Republicans. He was equal picker for that. But yeah, he was so humorous. The second guy, and Jim thought the second guy was better than the first. I thought the first was better than the second. Third guy, I don't know if he's having a bad day, but no one was laughing at his jokes, and he was getting very upset.
Oh,
He yelled at someone in the front that was taking a video of him. Now, they didn't tell us we couldn't take videos. They said no flash photography. And he started yelling at him. He's like, you need to erase that right now. And he kept yelling at the audience because we weren't laughing at his jokes. He's like, what's wrong with you people? Aren't you smart enough to get my jokes? And he's supposed to be some famous guy.
what was his name?
I don't remember. But he's been in some movies with some famous people for comedy movies. It was brutal. He was not doing well. And because seriously, no one was laughing at his joke. There were a couple of his jokes that were very funny, but for the most part, no one was laughing. And that's got to be hard for him, because here, the two warm-up guys, you could hear how much people were laughing. But yeah, comedy show was great. Yeah. The first guy was so freaking funny. And it's so cool that Royal Caribbean, he went on to be a comedian, and they hired him to come back on their icon. Cool. Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Well, a lot of times we used to have issues with outside seating and never enough.
That's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
There is deck 17 is like a little, how I said some decks, they only have port or starboard.
Right.
Deck 17 basically just goes on port side, I think. And it's just like a little, there's lime and coconuts everywhere. There's lime and coconut up there, and then it kind of goes around. There's seating. That was mobbed. Why? I have no idea, but it was. The rest of the decks, like Jim and I, how they always have the big beds that we like to find and lay in, and we found those frequently.
Oh.
However, so there's tons of space. That's one of the things I love about the old Royal Caribbean ships. They have a lot of places you can sit inside and look through glass at the water. Icon has tons of that. There's all sorts of places you can sit inside in air conditioning or in heat, I would imagine, and look out over the water. That being said, I have never seen so many people reserve their seats.
Oh, that really is annoying.
So I was, on the day I was doing my walking tour, this guy comes out of the elevator holding like a ton of towels. And I'm, I try to be witty. I was going to say to him, do you need an extra towel? As a joke, but I didn't, because I was doing my video. And so I start walking around. I go all the way around the one deck and come back. And he had 7 or 8 chairs right on the pool that he had just put all the towels out on and put the clips on them, and then was walking away to go have breakfast.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Right on the pool.
They should have the workers over there and say, look, these are not.
Yeah, they supposedly, they have a half-hour limit. If someone doesn't come back, they need to do that on Icon. Jim, he loves sitting and looking out of the water. And one day he found 2 chairs for us, and I had to do some stuff. So I went up, I sat down with him, and right next to us, there were 4 chairs that had books on them and towels. And I went to do some editing or something, and I came back, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours later. And Jim's like, yeah, they have yet to come sit down. I went away again, came back later, and Jim said, yeah, they came and got their towels and their books and took them away. They had those seats reserved for the entire day and never once sat in them.
Mm. Yeah.
But there's tons of seating, tons and tons of seating. We never had a problem finding seats.
Oh.
Ever on the ship.
Now, did you go to the Windjammer?
Yes, we went to the Windjammer
What about the
only a
seats
couple
there?
times. The Windjammer is not, I don't think it's as big as Wonder. At least it didn't seem. So Wonder does like a big horseshoe like this
Mhm.
around the boardwalk.
Right.
This one does the same thing, but it doesn't go across in the aft part of the ship. It just goes straight back. Yeah, we never had problems finding seating, but we didn't eat there. So it's my understanding that in the Oasis class ships before Wonder and Utopia, they made Windjammer smaller because there was a lot of places to eat
Right.
other than that. The problem is they're places that I don't want to eat at. And so we would eat at Windjammer all the
Right.
time. And this ship, I ate at all these other places. Like there's a buffet in Surfside, which is Boardwalk. The food there's, I thought was actually better than the Windjammer. Like I got an omelet there, pre-made, so I didn't have it custom made, but it was pre-made, and it was better than it was a nice, visually, it was a ton better, and it tasted better. Then there's this area up by where the Aqua Theater is, the dome. And it's like street food stalls. So there's one that does Asian food. There's one that does mac and cheese. There's one that does like healthier like sandwiches. And then there's one that does something else, and a crepes place. And they're all in a line.
Oh,
You
that'd
can
be
go
cool. Like
pick
a
what you
food
want to
truck
eat.
too?
Yeah, like food trucks. Ate there a ton of times. There's food everywhere. And the Park Cafe. I don't even think I ever went in the Park Cafe because
Yeah,
so
I
much
forgot
food.
about that when we were on. I think Harmony. Which
Yeah,
one?
Harmony.
Harmony.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that until
Yeah, food
towards the end.
much outside the Windjammer, much higher. And in the Windjammer, they had lobster.
Oh,
I didn't go that night. I was actually eating at Giovanni's, and Jim sent me pictures. He's like, they have lobster at Windjammer, lobster tails. Yeah, and they weren't handing them out. You just go up, and I because we lived in Vegas, and when they would have seafood night at the
Oh,
buffets,
God.
people would put like a mound of crab legs on their plate, and it was so disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked them. He said they weren't doing that.
All right. So which ports did you go? Did this ship?
We went to St. Kitts and Nevis. So St. Kitts and Nevis are really close together. They're in the same. They're basically the same government, country, whatever you want to call it. It's Nevis and St. Kitts, and the port is in St. Kitts. And we took a ferry over to Nevis and did an excursion over there,
Right.
and it was great. The people were fantastic. The crew, the excursion people, the ferry. There was a captain and a helper. Both were great. Actually, they asked me for our channel, so they could be watching. So hello. I'm going to put a review up of the excursion. It was outstanding. We went to a beach. We had lunch.
So you didn't have to take a tender in?
No,
No,
St.
okay, good.
Kitts is up here. And that's why we're going back on Star, because I didn't do anything on St. Kitts. And there's a narrow gauge train on St. Kitts, which is what we're going to do when we go back. And then, huh?
Okay, continue.
You don't want to do that?
No, I'm sorry. He always says, we want to do this. We want to do that.
Yes, because when
It's
I asked, you
we,
say,
not we.
I don't care. And then I make the decision anyway.
Yeah, usually that's what I say.
St. Thomas, Jim went to Megan's Bay, which is a beach. He's all about the beaches. And he got some really nice videos, and I'm going to try to put them in our Let's Cruise videos. There's a gondola that goes up to a top of a mountain, and there's a restaurant up there. I went and did that. The views up there are amazing. And Oh my God. They have this, I think it's called a bushwhacker. I think that's what it's called. It was a drink. It was, why are you laughing? It was it a Canadian thing?
No.
Oh, I'm gonna the
I had
comments
3 hours of sleep. I'm tired.
the comments that we're gonna get about this one. So it's a frozen drink, and it's like this is what we're known for. So I'm like, okay, I'll take one of those because I was sitting right on the railing in this restaurant with this amazing view out over the cruise ships and the Caribbean Sea and everything. And so I ordered one of those, and I'm drinking it, and it was great. It tasted fantastic. It tasted like there was no alcohol whatsoever in it. So then I'm like, I've still got an hour and something, and I don't want to lose my table.
Right.
I'm going to order food, and it said our famous sandwich. It's like a hot dog bun. What do they call them with the lobster in them? Something boy. No. Okay. So it's like a hot dog roll, and it had lobster and shrimp, I think, in it, in a sauce, and the bread was not good. The innards was great. I just ate what was in it out. But before that came, the lady said, "Would you like another one of your drinks?" So I just finished that drink, and I'm thinking, they're not cheap. They were like 14, 15 bucks. And I said, sure, I'll have another because I want something to drink with my food. I said, bring it out with my food because there was no alcohol in it. Well, after I said that, like 10 minutes goes by. And I'm just like, holy crap. I'm just like swaying back and forth. I'm like, oh my God, there must have been so much alcohol in that I couldn't taste.
Ew.
And then she brings out another one. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get off of this freaking mountain? I was originally, they said they would drop us off in town and let people walk back. I was going to do that. There's no way I could do that. Oh, wait. I don't know if I told you this. So we got off the cruise ship in St. Thomas. You wait in the lines.
Right.
To go on your excursion. Now, they're just lines. You meet there, you get in the line. And we get on the bus. And they had two buses. So half of us went in one bus, half in the other bus. And we start driving. Next thing you know, the guy does a U-turn and drives back to the port after we've already been driving for like 10 minutes. Did I tell you this?
No.
And we get back. And the guy pulls in. And this woman comes up and says, some guy's name. You need to get off the bus. And he finally gets off the bus, and then the driver turns around and leaves.
Right.
It turns out this excursion was sold out, and he wanted to go on it with his family and or friends.
Right.
So he took his excursion ticket for a different excursion and pretended it was for that one and gave it to him, and they figured it out. They figured it out after he was on. He probably thought he got away with it.
Right.
And then they figured it out, and they made him come back, and they pulled him off the bus. And then we went to Coco Cay, which I love. And we went to the new adult-only section, Hideaway Bay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to do a review on that in I don't know, a month or so. There were some really good points about it and some really bad points about it. So it's kind of hit or miss. I don't know. You and I are going on Utopia, and we're going to the Cocoa Beach Club, the VIP area. But next year, when we go back, I'm sure we'll go to Coco Cay at some point again soon. If we do that, I don't know. It'll be interesting. She's never been to the Cocoa Beach Club, Coco Cay Beach Club. It'll be interesting. If you like that, we'll probably just go back to that. It's a lot more expensive, but you get free, really nice food with it. I don't know. The adult only area was fantastic first thing in the morning, but when it got crowded, it was
just as bad as everywhere.
Way out of control.
Right.
And the food was actually better. So you get food, you get little areas you can go up to. And this area costs money. And it varies depending on how many people are there. But the food in the free areas out in the regular Coco Cay was better than the food in the adult-only area.
It's weird.
Yeah. And the drinks were very, very small. So they give you a big glass with as much
lot of
ice as they
ice.
can pack in there, and they pour a little bit of alcohol in it, and they're like $14.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no. Now the beer is still reasonably priced, but still, yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. And that was it. That's where we went.
Okay. Last question.
Okay, and then we have a couple questions.
Okay. How much was this cruise total?
Okay, so it was $1,900 a person. Yes, and so I paid
For the
$1,900,
balcony.
and Jim paid that for the balcony, inside balcony. It is pricey. Like Star, we are paying, I think, $1,500, but that's because we're going in September. If we went over the summertime, it would have been over 2,000. No, I'm sorry. It was right at 2,000 for each of us in September. If we went over the summer, it would have been closer to 2,700, and that's with gratuities and
I
everything.
wonder why.
Because they're the brand new ships, and why September?
Yeah.
September is the cheapest. September, October, January, February, cheapest times to go.
Hurricane season, maybe.
Kids are back in school.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Let's do a break right now. Do the walking thing. Remember, there's something in the cabin that's cruise related. And if you find it, send us an email at connect@thirdorbittravelers.com. Tell us what it is and where it is. And then we'll randomly pick a winner next Sunday. And let's go on to the emails. All right, I'll read the emails because Kat doesn't like reading the emails. But most of these, remember, these were supposed to be icon questions, and a lot of these will be, I'll skip over some of them. Hey, Sean and Kat, love the podcast. Thank you. Keeps me hyped for my next cruise. I've been hearing so much about Icon of the Seas being the biggest cruise ship ever. How big is it really compared to other Royal Caribbean ships? Like, is it noticeably massive when you're on it? Can't wait to hear your take. Cheers, Mike. Okay. It's big. How big is it? I don't know. So I looked it up. The largest ship that Royal has right now is Icon of the Seas, and Grandeur of the Seas is the smallest. Icon is roughly 3.5, it's actually 3.4 times bigger. So you can put 3.5 Grandeurs of the Seas inside of Icon. It is 1.3 times longer than Grandeur of the Seas. It has 1.7 times more decks. It has 20 decks compared to 12. And its passenger capacity is 3.1 times more than Grandeur of the Seas. So it's a big ship. And we were parked right next to one of Celebrity's, their big ships, and it just dwarfed it. Okay, next.
Ship.
Huh?
I said, holy ship.
Yeah, holy ship. Next. Hi, Sean. Guess they're not saying hi to you. This is from, Jenny from Ohio. It says, your last episode got me dreaming of a cruise. My husband and I are planning a trip with our 2 kids, aged 5 and 8, on Icon of the Seas. What's the best stuff for families with young kids to do on the ship? I keep seeing it's family, quote, family friendly, but what does that really mean? So the boardwalk is now Surfside. So all the boardwalks that are on Oasis class ships, that became Surfside, and the entire area is devoted to kids. And it's great because it's a kid magnet. Whew. Now, the good news is for you as adults, there's a bunch of seating there while they're splashing around and doing the little obstacle course or riding the Ferris wheel. Now, I will say the Ferris wheel isn't horses like on the Oasis ships.
Right.
It's like goofy plastic things. It's not as nice. But there's tons, like the splashing areas on the Oasis ship is all big area for that. The best part is there's actually a bar right next to the pool. So as an adult, you can sit there and have drinks and watch your kid. It's right there. So it's not like you're inside and can't see your child. You can sit there, be drinking, and you can see your kids without any problem. There's also a buffet that I talked about earlier, and there's that specialty dining restaurant. There's an ice cream place. Oh, and there's a place that you can just get like small things like hot dogs, uh, chicken tenders, stuff like that. So tons of places. And then there's the water slides. You said you have an 8-year-old. Yeah, probably not. But there are the water slides for the teenage kids, which are really nice. Next one. Hey, Kat and Sean. See, Carlos didn't forget you.
Carlos.
I'm a total foodie and I'm dying to know about the dining on the Icon of the Seas. Are there any standout restaurants or dishes we should try? Also, how many are free versus extra cost? So there are less specialty restaurants, at least it seems to me, on Icon. They're not all over the place like they are on the Oasis class ships. And there's a lot more free food and a lot better choices. The standout Empire Supper Club. If you're willing to shell out it's like $250 after taxes.
It
and
keeps going up here.
No, it's $200 without gratuity. So there's automatic 18% gratuity. And I also tipped them quite a bit on top of that. And then there's, all the taxes and fees or whatever else is included. If you're willing to pay that, outstanding. The other one I would suggest is Hooked. And the reason for it is it's all the way up by the Aqua Theater. And they actually have seating inside the restaurant, but they also have seating in the Aqua Dome Theater area. And yeah, I would do that. And the captain's platter, I think that's what it's called. It has lobster and fish. It's very good. Okay, next. I've never, Sean and Kat. I don't know. I'm just making that up because when I cut and pasted it, I forgot that part. I've never cruised before, and Icon of the Seas might be my first. Is it too overwhelming for a newbie?
I would say yes.
Huh?
I would say yes.
I would say no, and I'll tell you why. What's one thing you tell a first timer to focus on to enjoy? Thanks for all you do. Take care, Lisa. Yes, it's a huge ship. However, it is definitely more open than a lot of the smaller ships. I would say your first time you should either go on an Oasis class ship or Icon, because there's big, huge open areas, and there's signage on Icon everywhere, like street signs that point aft or forward or starboard or port, and arrows pointing like Central Park up these stairs. And the elevators are outstanding. You go to the elevators and there's all these little kiosks, and there's just buttons for decks. You want to go to deck 15, you hit the deck 15 button and it says elevator J. And then the J lights up, it goes ding. You walk over to elevator J and you stand there, then the elevator doors open, you go in, the elevator doors close, and there's a little 15 on the screen that knows that's where you're going. You don't go into an elevator and push buttons. None of that. And it's so fast and it's so easy to get around.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Okay. Last one. Adult only spots. Hey, Sean and Kat, big shout out to you and Kat for an awesome podcast. I could have just made that up.
You could have.
Greg is the only one that would know if that's made up or not. Anyway, my wife and I are eyeing the Icon of the Seas, but we're not bringing kids. Are there enough adult only areas to chill away from the family chaos? What's your favorite spot? Yes, there's a hideaway section in the back. And Jim and I actually rented
a lover's bed.
It's not a day bed. It's like one of those day beds, but there's two different reclining things. Mm-hmm. So it's basically 2 lounge chairs put, whatever, together. And
Did you get the champagnes and strawberries?
no, you get champagne. So you get 2 options. It's not cheap. It was basically like $200 for the day, but you get it from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. But we got there at 8:30, and you get either a bottle of champagne or 4 drinks. Now the drinks are $14 a piece. Do the math, and so it's basically $200 after you take the drinks away, or 180 or something like that. Now, why did I get that? Because it's right on the railing. And when you're sitting in it, you're looking out over the water. That's number 1. Number 2, I didn't realize you could go in that section without doing that, because I didn't really look too hard. I just paid for it. There's a whole bunch of free seating in that area. But you got to get there. If you get there, so we got there first thing in the morning. I think we got there right at 9 o'clock. I walked out. I told the people at the bar we were there. They took us over to the bed that we reserved, or whatever you want to call it. And the infinity pool, as soon as I put my stuff down, I went swimming. I was the only person in the infinity pool, and I was in there for like 45 minutes. I think one person came in toward the end, and I went back to the thing, had our drinks, and just lounged out for quite a bit of time. And it was really weird because you pay for the thing, you have it the whole day. There was a couple that was right next to us. They were there for like, I don't know, hour and a half, left and never came back. Now, the downside is there's no shade, really, at all. It's basically a horseshoe. There's the place where all the seating is with the day beds, or whatever you want to call them. Then there's the infinity pool. And then the other side is a bar, and above it is the flow rider for the surfing. So that is covered, and there's a whole bunch of seating in there. But it's like,
can't see anything.
No, you can, but it's like chairs like you would sit in a restaurant, like lounge chairs, not lounge chairs, but like chairs with tables and stuff. But yes, you can totally, there's no kids in there. No kids. And if you go there first thing in the morning, the whole place will be yours. And here's the best part. If you go there anytime after 6 o'clock at night, you'll be the only person there. Jim and I went back at 7, and they already had made up our day bed for the next day's people. And we're like, well, I guess we're not going to use that. But there was no one. We didn't need to use it because there was no one there. I went back in the infinity pool that was not clear anymore.
Ew.
Yeah, it was a little dirty. During the day, it's gross. If you go like right at noon or 11 o'clock, there are so many people in the infinity pool, that glass wall, there's people, it's like a concert, people standing side by side, just looking out. Yeah, that was gross.
Ew.
But anyway, any last things?
No, sounds exciting.
So we're a week late. We'll be doing the next one, the last Sunday of this month, which is March. And then next month, we are on Utopia, and we have reservations for the railroad dining car simulator. That was a nightmare to get those, but I got them. Can't wait.
Can't beat it.
Can't beat it. See you next time.